Modern day Zordon effect in After Effects. Let's hop in. Alright, so to get started, I'm going to go ahead and delete our compositions here and our solids. We'll just drag them down to the trash can button here and hit delete. So what we're going to do is use the Zordon plate video to create our new composition. So just drag it down here to the new composition button, and this will give us a new composition. So let's go to our effects browser here and type in levels and drop levels onto our video plate. And what we can do is drag this little handle here to where the highlights are just a little bit brighter, and then we can drag the midtones over here and then kind of bring up the blacks. About like that, to where it's kind of highly contrasted. And then we're going to go to the effects and presets browser and type in tritone and drop it onto the video. And instead of a brown midtone, we're going to select kind of a green, about like that, and hit OK. So let's go ahead and create a new solid. So go to Layer, New Solid, and we'll call this Radio Waves. And we'll make this comp size, and we'll change the color to gray, and hit OK. So go ahead and go to the Effects and Presets browser and type in Radio Waves and drop it onto the solid. And we'll make sure our producer point is right there in the middle of this handsome guy's face right here, and we'll change the frequency to 0.7, and we'll change the expansion to 13. So now if we scrub through here, we'll see some radio waves kind of begin to come out from the center here. So let's go down here to the color, and we're going to change this to kind of a desaturated red, about like right there. And we'll change the fade out time to 12. Starting width we'll set to 100. And the ending width we'll set to 0. So now if you scrub through here, you see we have these radio waves, and they just get bigger over time. So now let's go back over to our effects and presets browser and type in fast blur. And we're going to drop this fast blur onto the radio waves. And we're going to change the blurriness to 200. And make sure we have repeat edge pixels selected. So now it'll just kind of continue the edge pixels as they approach the edge of the screen here. Now let's go to our Zordon plate and duplicate. And we'll put the plate right on top. And now we're going to go over here to our mask, and we're just going to cut out the face here. Just like this. Just along the edge of the face. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be pretty close. About like this. And close it off. So right now the edge, if we turn off the mask here, we can see it's really harsh. Instead we want it to be soft, so if you hit the F key, you'll go to Mask Feather, and we'll just turn the feathering up to, let's say, about 93, so we'll make it an even 100. Now the last thing we want to do with this plate is drop in some distortion. So go ahead and drop in the analog overlay distortion. And this distortion comes from the corruption pack over on Rocket Stock, and you can learn more about that in the description below. So let's go ahead and scale up this distortion element to where it fills up the entire frame. And we're going to change the transfer mode to screen to make it kind of bright white. And hit T for opacity, and we're going to drop the opacity down to 5%. So now it's just ever so slight in the frame. Go ahead and duplicate that analog overlay, and I'm going to hit W for rotation and go ahead and rotate it 180 degrees. Just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and move the analog distortion down to where it's just kind of at a different frame, so the distortion doesn't look like it's just an exact duplicate of the top and bottom. And we're going to change the transfer mode of this one to multiply. And let's go to our effects and presets browser, and I'm going to type in invert and drop it onto our top layer. So the top one is the dark distortion, and the bottom one is the bright distortion. Excellent. So now if we scrub through here, we see we have the radio waves that kind of come off the face here, and then we have some distortion elements in the background. And that's all there really is to creating the plate. Now it's time to create the actual look. So I'm going to go over here to our project panel, and I'm going to drop the Zordon plate into the new composition button. Now before we do anything else, I'm going to go to Layer, New Camera to create a new camera, and we'll make this a 50mm camera and hit OK. and OK. So the secret to getting this look is really in an awesome free effect that's included in After Effects called Card Dance. So go ahead and type that in your effects browser and drop it onto your plate. So we're going to go in here and change the gradient layer 1 to the Lzodar plate. So we're going to go to our Z position here and change the source to intensity 1. So right off the bat, you'll see that this is not enough cards. We actually want there to be a lot more. So I'm going to go in here to rows, and I'm going to type in 215, and under columns, I'm going to type in 300. So now there's a bunch of little squares, and the brightness of the pixels will determine how far back in Z depth they go. So now all we have to do is adjust a few of the settings. Go over here to offset and type in 0.6. Now, I'm going to go ahead and toggle off our transparency here so we can kind of see what's going on. And let's go to the X scale and change the offset to 0.7. And then the Y scale will do the same. We'll change the offset to 0.7. So right off the bat, you can see we have this pretty great Lzodar look going on here. And if you kind of zoom in here, you can see that the dark areas are a little smaller and the brighter areas are a little bit bigger. And it makes it look like these are 3D cubes. So let's change the camera system to comp camera, and that basically is telling After Effects we're going to use this camera right here to create the 3D depth. And under lighting, we are going to change the light type to first comp light. And right now we don't actually have a light in there, so it'll be dark, but we'll change that in just a moment. And let's go ahead and change this ambient light down to 0. And then under material, we'll change the highlight sharpness to about 20. Excellent. So now we have a big black screen. Looks good, right? I'm just kidding. So let's add in a light so we can see what's going on. So go to Layer, New, Light. And we're going to create a point light and we'll hit OK. So go ahead and drag this light by the Z depth here. We're going to drag it in front of our Lzodar here, and then we're going to go ahead and center up this light. Like that. And go ahead, just kind of pull it to the top here to where the light is kind of primarily up here on the top, and that's looking pretty good. Excellent. So now it's time to accentuate the highlights. So let's go ahead and duplicate this Lzodar plate, and we're going to go in here to the X scale, and I'm going to turn down the offset to about -0.2. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and solo this second layer here to where we're really only working with the highlights here. So go in to the effects and presets and type in fast blur and drop it onto the layer. And we're going to turn up the blurriness here just a little bit to where you can get this kind of nice blurry outline here. And I'm going to go to our effects and presets browser one more time and type in ramp, and we're going to drop in the gradient ramp onto our highlight layer here. So now you can see that there's a little bit of a background selected. It's ever so slight, but you'll see the gradient ramp is kind of accentuating this background. Go ahead and drag one of the handles over here to the top left, and we'll grab the other handle and put it in the bottom right. So I'm going to change the start color to just kind of a brighter blue, about like that. And the end color, I'll turn to kind of a desaturated middle of the road blue, about like that. And let's change the transfer mode to add and desolo it. Excellent. So now you can see there's this cool blue background and the highlights are kind of accentuated blue. So now all we have to do is stylize a little further. So I'm going to go to Layer, New, Solid, and we're going to call this Vignette. And I'll make it comp size and we'll change it to black and hit OK and OK. So now go in with your pen tool and just kind of create kind of an outline. You can do whatever shape you want. I'm going to do this elongated rectangle shape. And I'm going to change our mask to subtract, hit F for feather, and feather out the edges. About like that. Now go to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer, and we're going to go to our Effects and Presets browser and type in Curves and drop it onto the adjustment layer. And so now we can go in and we can kind of create an S curve here if we wanted to kind of accentuate the contrast. I think that's looking pretty cool right there. And now, because we used a 3D camera, we can actually adjust the camera in 3D space. So I'm going to go in and push the camera forward along the Z depth until it fills the whole frame. About like that. And then you can hit the drop down menu, and so let's go ahead and set a keyframe for the point of interest and the position. Move forward about, let's say, 5.5 seconds. Make sure we have our track Z camera selected and push in towards our subject. Excellent, just like that. And that's about it. If you want to download the free project files or learn more about this technique, go check out the blog post over at rocketstock.com. And of course, if you're ever looking for the world's best video assets or After Effects templates, go check out Rocketstock. This has been Caleb Ward. We'll see you next time.